Okay, I'm probably going to offend some people with this review, but it's from my honest opinion and standpoint. There are pros and cons about independent trucks, which is what this video is about. I've ridden Indies so many times. I've done the full regular ones. They're all heavy. I've done the hollow lights. I've done like the Pro Reynolds versions. This one that I'm riding is from the Mindy lights. So they're mid-Indies and they're hollow lights. Regardless, it's pretty much an independent truck. It's just a little bit lower. Even though it's lighter, it's still heavier than other trucks from like Tensor or Thunder. So we're not going to get into all the technicals because this is pretty much just a review on independent trucks and how they turn. So these are a little bit lower than the normal Indies. Again, these are the Mindys, but they're still a little bit taller than like your average Thunder trucks, and they are a little bit lighter, which is a plus. I don't like heavy trucks. Again, this review is more on how they turn. So there are pros and cons to independent trucks. So what I like about them, before getting everybody mad, they turn amazing. I mean, that's why pool riders, transition riders, park riders, that's why a lot of people like independent trucks. Like, you can't really explain how they feel until you ride them, but like, they just surf, they carve, the motion, like everything is just so amazing. Like, you just feel like when you're riding independent trucks that your style has improved and that you're more just cool when you're riding around the skate park. So there is that. Like, I love just riding around, going around some big bowls, bank turns, not really getting stuck on things, being able to do quick little tight turns, and you just really flow around the park. So it's amazing if you're a transition rider and you're really into bowls, because you do feel like you can kind of become one with the board and just go around. My biggest gripe with the independent trucks is not how they turn. It's how they like compress and their pinch point and how they turn in. So the thing is, when they bend down, I've already tried to tighten these trucks so many times, which I'll get into that. It's really hard to see. Maybe if I go up or if I pull that way. Yeah, no, it's hard to see. But when they push down, instead of kind of just going up and down like Thunder or some other trucks, these really like to bend. So when you turn, when you squeeze them down, they go inwards. So when you're doing like a tight turn, you pretty much have, you got both trucks that want to squeeze inwards. I'm assuming maybe that's kind of what helps you feel like tighter and more planted when you're carving around bowls. But when it comes to doing flip tricks on flat ground, it's very distracting. Same with like doing grinds. I'm not gonna like get into too technicals because obviously there are outliers in every case. But that's probably why most of the tech flip trick people you see, they're doing like, hard flip, late flips, and triple flips and all these other weird things, or crazy grind combos. Most of them are not riding independent trucks. They're riding other trucks. So maybe that's just what happened, or they got lucky with their sponsors. So the thing that's weird about that compression is you'll land a trick, like say you do a full cab on the ground or a back 180. Instead of the trucks just kind of going up and down and like holding you where you land, they like to squeeze in and they don't really rebound out as much. So if you do like a full cab and your weight is not like perfect, you will just carve out of that. You'll do a full cab, you'll land fakie, and then you'll just keep riding in a circle. I mean, you'll keep riding in a circle over and over again if you don't fight the board back and then tell it where to go. So it's kind of in a way like how Tensor trucks are. These just squish down more. They do have a little better rebound. You guys saw my Tensor truck review. Those things, they don't rebound. Like, you have to manually pull them back. At least this kind of wants to go back to its original shape. So it is much better than that. Like I said, it seemed like Tensor trucks were trying to find like a middle ground between Thunder and independent, and they didn't really have an identity because they just, it didn't really have a solid basis for its like geometry, even the new trucks. So these, you land a trick and then you just you carve out of everything. So you have to really make sure your center of gravity's over something. Turn tricks are kind of weird. That squishiness is also really annoying when you're doing a grind. So like, you know, say you go into a grind, you do like a 5-0 or 50-50, you pop out and, you know, you land. And so obviously, like when you do a 50-50, you have to, you know, jump off the ledge. So you 50-50 grind, I mean, unless you're just going straight off the end, but you know, say you're trying to come off the ledge, you know, you got to go back sideways a little bit. So you have all of that weight and you go back and then you land. So obviously your body's momentum is still wanting to go this way. So then all of that weight is shifted and pushed onto that side. So, you know, 50-50, hop out, you know, you come out to the side. Instead of just landing solid and continuing to roll, the board really likes to squeeze down and do its little hook turn, its arch. It wants to carve, or worst case scenario, which happens a lot, you just get wheel bite. Because anytime you are heel heavy or toe heavy, it'll squish down and wheel bite. So it's annoying when you're literally skating a curb and you're just popping out of a warm-up 50-50 and then it tries to carve and you get wheel bite. Even with the trucks really tight, it doesn't really seem like it helps with that squishiness. Now, a lot of people with independent trucks, you see it all over the internet. Somebody even suggested this to me like 10 years ago, is swap it out with Bones bushings. Don't use independent bushings. Swap it out with stiffer bushings or thicker bushings. It'll make it so much better. It'll transform the trucks. Bones bushings are so much better. Yes, that's how it was 10 years ago when I tried it, because I used to ride Indies all the time. But with these all stock, which surprisingly I think independent upgraded their bushings, because used to, if you tighten their trucks pretty hard, the bushings would just shred and tear up and it'd look like shredded cheese. So these have been holding up pretty well. So kudos to independent for using better rubber on their bushings. But again, when we're talking about geometry and stiffness, I want a truck that I don't need to change out the bushings. I want it to come good at the factory. Like, I don't want all these modifications. So don't be leaving comments saying swap out the bushings on independent trucks. Like, yes, if you want to do that, go ahead and do that. Maybe it'll make your independent trucks better. Me personally, I didn't want to do that. So these, just the way they squish and turn and they don't rebound, which I guess not having rebound and them being softer and more playful is good for riding transition and carving around. But if you're just trying to do grinds and then land like technical flip tricks, then it really messes you up. So I'll probably be switching back to Thunder trucks after having ridden these for a year. Again, they feel really nice when you're just riding around the park and cruising. So there's that. Another benefit, again, not all bashing independent trucks. Like, they are still in the top amount of trucks. Like, most people, there's a general consensus, the two best truck brands out there are Thunder and Independent. That's still true. From my experience, independent trucks are still better than Tensor trucks and Venture trucks, Destructo, and some others. So yeah, Indies, they're still good. It just depends on your riding style. So, you know, don't be trying to argue and starting fights and bashing in the comments. I've seen people do that on other things. I'm just saying from my personal review, I don't like the way these feel when it comes to landing impact on flip tricks. They feel great moving around. They lock into grinds a lot better than Tensor trucks. Not as good as Thunders. Thunders, they got that perfect pinch and that locking in. But these are pretty good. I haven't really had any problems with grinds. I mean, again, they don't lock in as well, but like I haven't like slipped off and gotten all wonky like Tensor trucks. So there's that. And then the other benefit that I'm trying to get into that I really do like about independent trucks is the tighter wheelbase. So Indies, I guess maybe that explains why they kind of squish inwards, is because the way the bolt is these are more in, where like from the main center of the bolts where they insert in, and then Thunders are a little bit kind of farther out and they're wider, so you get kind of like more, I guess, stability on stalls and grinds with Thunders, but your increased wheelbase makes it a lot harder to sometimes do manuals and then also doing rotational tricks, because you're center of gravity, centrifugal force, your main base mass inertia. I'm throwing out words, don't really know the technicals, but most of the weight is more inwards when it comes to a shorter wheelbase. So I did notice one thing that I really like about the independent trucks is just out of nowhere, I just started popping 540 pop shove-its, like every time, and they would just sling around. Like if I really like tried to huck it and jump high, I'd be able to do a 720 pop shove-it. Now it kind of makes me dizzy looking at the ground, seeing the board spin around that many times. But on a slick ground, 540 pop shove-its were pretty much nothing. So here's a little clip of me doing those little 540 pop shove-its. But yeah, as I was saying, I don't know if it was exactly the truck or maybe just my skill level on the ground was helping with the 540 pop shove-its. So when I do switch back to Thunder trucks, I will try to go back to the same spot at the same skate park in the same conditions and try some 540 pop shove-its. And, if they feel the exact same, then, maybe that whole shorter wheelbase thing isn't the case. That was honestly the main reason I got independent trucks, is because I wanted a shorter wheelbase because my tray flips were just kind of slacking. And I figured if I got that tighter wheelbase, I can just swing tray flips without effort. And yeah, I got tray flips back, but they didn't really feel like massively improved from the Thunder trucks. Like I was thinking like, oh my gosh, my tray flips are going to be freaking perfect and require no effort. No, they still feel like a tray flip, but the 540 pop shove-its did seem to kind of like sling around once I got that sweet spot in the scoop. So long story short, independent trucks, they are great for park riding, bowls, carving, mini ramps, cruising around, all of that. They also have benefits when it comes to flat ground flip tricks and stuff that involves like doing a 360 flip or 540 flip or just anything that requires that twirl. The only downsides I didn't like was just how they kind of like pinch, they squeeze wheel bite really easily no matter how much you tighten them, and then just that whole like angle and carve whenever you land a trick, and it's just not as solid feeling. It's kind of feels more like you're riding a ripstick, where I would compare and say Thunder trucks are kind of like riding a snowboard, where you feel a lot more flat. Like, independent trucks, they kind of move around a lot, where Thunders, they just kind of feel flat. So, you land a trick, bolts, you just land flat. You do a grind, pop out, land flat. It feels very stiff and kind of robotic with Thunder trucks. And not everybody likes that. Everybody's allowed to their own opinion, and I just kind of prefer that. My style may look more robotic and worse with Thunder trucks, but at least I'm landing my tricks more solid with those. So I would rather take that over constantly just getting frustrated and not even landing like a basic trick. So that's my opinion. Maybe the wheel bite thing would kind of go away if I, got more of like the normal independent trucks. So, it won't wheel bite, but it's not going to change the geometry of how sharp they kind of curve when you land too toe heavy or too wheel heavy. So that's my summary of in-depth personal experiences from independent trucks. I used to do a lot of good tricks with them back in the day. Like if you look at all my YouTube videos from maybe 10 or 12 years ago and before, I was riding Indy trucks all the time. Then I switched to Thunder. They worked out really well, so I just kind of stuck with them. The whole if it ain't broke, don't fix it mindset. And then I started reading about wheelbase tightness and all of that from Ben Degros or something. I forgot his name on YouTube, but he gets in all the technical stuff. And he was just talking about wheelbase, and I said, hey, my tray flips are feeling whack. I feel like I can't 540 flip anymore, ever. So maybe I'll try a shorter wheelbase and see how that is. And it does seem like it helped a little bit, but it didn't seem like it was worth the other trade-offs that happened. So that's why I will probably go back to Thunder. But anyways, yeah, Indies, good for riding around, carving in the bowl and transition, good for just cruising, good for, centrifugal force type tricks that require rotation, just not as good for feeling planted and stable. I will have more reviews coming out later whenever those products come out. Maybe the new Nyjah 3 shoes, because I've been trying to break them in. They're taking a little longer than usual, But I will have a review for the Niger 3s out sometime soon.